Hello, I'm Joe Wright, and welcome back to Raised by Pride. Today, I'll be talking about Chapter 3, When the Music Got Louder. This chapter tells the story from the perspective of the young man who got to witness the queer community as they built a sanctuary and safe place where they could celebrate their lives, each other, and show love for community. I hope you enjoy. When I think back to the years with Sue, the memories that shine the brightest aren't just about the everyday routines or even the big moments. They're about the nights when our house filled with laughter, food, music, and love. Those dinners, get-togethers, and especially the annual Christmas party were magic. And not just for me, but for a whole group of people who back then didn't often get to feel safe being themselves. There were always people around. Maybe not as often as I remember, but in my mind it felt constant. Friends dropping in for dinner, celebrating birthdays, or just showing up with a bottle of wine and a story to tell. The house could come alive with people I looked up to, people who became part of my extended family, my chosen family. There was Ellen. She was fun, spunky, sharp as a tack. She was an engineer, drove a Corvette, and never missed a chance to dance. She had this energy that pulled you in, and if you were the one sitting on the sidelines, she was the one yanking you to your feet. And in true Ellen fashion, she taught me how to make a proper kamikaze shooter when I was about 11 or 12. I didn't drink them, of course, but I took great pride in mixing them just right. Everyone raved about how good I was at it. And the funny thing about making drinks for adults, as the night went on, the reviews got better. There was Susan and Jackie. I don't remember exactly who did what, but one played violin in the Annapolis Symphony Orchestra, and the other worked at the Smithsonian Institute. There was Ricky, a veterinarian, and his partner Tom, who also worked at the Smithsonian. There was Maureen and so many other names I may not remember, but whose smiles and stories I still carry with me. When their friends came over, it was like our little house lit up from the inside. The music would start soft, the conversation would hum, and as the night went on, the volume would rise with the voices, laughter, dancing, everything. I can still see my mother and Ellen trying to pull me onto the floor, insisting I learn to dance. I don't think I ever had rhythm, but I gave it my best shot. And then there was the Christmas party. Somewhere along the way, my mom and Sue decided to start hosting an annual holiday gathering. It was always the weekend before Christmas, and everyone came. It became the night of the year. It was our blowout. We dressed up. We put out the best food and drink we could manage, and we celebrated well into the morning hours. I looked forward to that night all year long. Even now, decades later, my mom and now Debbie still throw their annual Christmas party. It's smaller now, quieter, and every now and then someone from those early years shows up, people like Susan and Jackie. And for a moment, when I hear about it, I'm taken right back into that warmth. But beneath the music and movement, life was happening. And life, especially for the LGBTQ plus community in the 80s, wasn't always kind. What I didn't understand at the time, but have come to appreciate deeply, is what those nights meant. To me, they were fun. To them, they were sanctuary. These weren't just parties. They were places of safety and belonging for people who didn't always have that in their world. Teachers, military members, scientists, artists. Some couldn't be open about who they were in their workplaces or even with their families. But here, in our little house, tucked on the edge of the woods, they could exhale. They could laugh loudly, love freely, dance wildly. But sometimes the weight in the room would change. The lighter moments giving way to something more serious. I didn't understand it then. Now I do. Because between the laughter and the good times, there was life. There were the adult conversations that happen when people are carrying things, real things. Someone coming out to their family and the heartbreak when it went badly, or the joy when it went surprisingly well. Someone talking in hushed tones about a friend who left the bar and got jumped walking to their car just for being gay. The fear that someone at work or a family member might find out the truth. I didn't always understand the full weight of what was being said, but I could feel the seriousness in the room when the conversation shifted. But it wasn't all heavy. There was normal stuff too. Who was dating who broke up, and who maybe needed to break up. Gossip, laughter, teasing, the kind of things you'd see in any close-knit circle. And then as I got a little older, a new word started showing up in those late-night conversations. AIDS. It was spoken softly, sometimes with fear, sometimes with confusion, always with gravity. I didn't know what it meant at first, but I could sense its power in the way it unsettled even the most joyful rooms. These nights were joy and protection all wrapped into one. As much as I remember the dancing and the laughter, I also remember someone crying in the kitchen and getting pulled into a hug. These people weren't characters in a sitcom or a headline in a debate. They were brilliant, funny, complicated, loving humans fighting for a space in a world that didn't make it easy. And for a while, that space was our home. In the next chapter, I'll share the story of Sue's younger brother, Cousin Tommy. He brought joy, laughter, and style into my life, but he also brought the hard truths of what it meant to be visibly, unapologetically gay in the 1980s. Some lessons come with heartbreak, and sometimes that heartbreak shows you just how much a person means to you. I hope you enjoyed Chapter 3. Thank you for following along. Another short chapter before we get into the more detailed, longer chapters soon to come. But again, it lays the foundation and my understanding and my perspective of the sanctuaries that were in our home that at the time I just thought were fun and enjoyable with wonderful people. But looking back, I can now see them for what they were and the beautiful place that I got to be a part of. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next chapter.